Hello, and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers. Welcome to Enlightened Empaths. Today we're going to be talking about signs that animals are working with you. One of the top ways we get signs from our loved ones in spirit is from animals and birds. So today we're going to be talking about some of the most common animals that seem to come through as messengers and what they symbolize.
And I think there's been some confusion for a lot of folks whether an animal is a sign from a loved one in spirit, or is it just a sign for us that they're trying to give us a little message or some insight? And I think it can be both.
Yeah, I do too. I think two things can be true at the same time. And that's why it's really important to pay attention to your intuition, to pay attention to how you feel when you see that sign, and to really be cognizant of what's going on in your life at that moment. What were you thinking about? If you see an animal that you often associate with your grandmother, but you haven't been thinking about your grandmother, if you're honest with yourself, then it might not be your grandmother. But if you've been missing her, or you just told a story about her, or a birthday or anniversary connected to her is coming up, then that could be a sign from your grandmother. So you have to kind of take in a lot of factors.
Right. And I think too, if you have a conversation, I know a lot of people will say, I'll come back as a butterfly. I'll let you know it's me. Or I'll come back as a hummingbird. Or people will set that up ahead of time. Well, then you kind of have a shoe-in of knowing that it's your person.
Right. Exactly. Have you done that? Did you tell your kids?
No.
Okay. I did.
No.
I told my kids I'll show them crystals.
Right. And I remember
How am I going to
because
make a crystal pop up randomly? I don't know.
wasn't there a story about your sister couldn't figure out what she would let them know it was? And you said, well, you owned a pizza
Yes.
restaurant for you. Okay. I think that kind of an indicator is if you get a spontaneous feeling or a thought of a specific loved one when you see an animal. So you see a blue jay and you immediately think of someone that you love in spirit, or that they loved blue jays, or whatever it might be. Does a hawk fly over every time you go past your grandparents' house? Do certain animals show up around, as you said, birthdays, anniversaries, or celebrations, or when you're struggling to try to figure something out? Because I think these can all be visits from loved ones and also a sign, a message from spirit in general.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes they can be confusing. I'm still trying to figure out. I think I shared with you my fox stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, real quick, I was driving to pick up Chloe from a friend's house late one night, and a fox ran out in the road and just stopped and stared at me. And I had this it was weird. It was almost like the fox was putting a message. It was weird. I just knew that something bad was coming up with my dad's health. And shortly after, his health took a dip and a bad turn, and, he did pass away. And then about a year later, I'm coming home late one night from a friend's house, and same thing, different road, different neighborhood. A fox runs out, stops and stares at me. And I got this really strong feeling that my mom had just a couple of weeks left to live. And I was like, what the heck is happening? And my mom was doing okay at that time. And she did pass very, very quickly after that. At my mom's funeral, we're driving away from the cemetery and it's daylight, and there's two foxes by the gate to the cemetery just staring at us.
Wow.
Yeah. But you wouldn't associate fox that way. Fox is usually associated with other insights.
Right.
I don't know.
I love that, though.
Yeah.
I love that they were so clear on making sure they got your attention.
Yeah, they sure did.
And I think for, a lot of times spirit animals are messengers, and they're just another resource for us. And they do want to help us, and we can call on them for guidance. So from what I've found from personal experience and from folks I've talked with over the years, if you have a really deep connection to the natural world, animals seem to foster a sense of trust and surety that you might not always feel from people or in your everyday environment.
I agree. That's so true. Animals give us a sense that there's more to this world than the hustle and bustle. And I think for me anyway, when I'm out in nature and I see certain animals, it reminds me to pause and to give thanks. I always feel so grateful. Like when I see a hawk flying, or when a bluebird lands on my mailbox, or a butterfly sits on my jasmine in my backyard, I feel so grateful, and it makes me exhale in a deeper way.
Well, they're also the way you just described that, it's a wonderful reminder to be present, to be aware, to be observing your surroundings, to be part of your surroundings. And that's how I was walking the dog out back the other day and stopped, and there was a deer standing just literally 25 feet away. And surprisingly, the dog looked at the deer looked at the dog. Nobody lost their mind. And we just kind of looked at each other for a few minutes. But I didn't pull out my phone and try to take a picture. And I didn't, it was just, it was a moment, but it stopped me and it made me aware of how lucky am I to live in a place where, and I live in town right now, that there would be a deer in the yard.
Oh,
Gentle new beginnings. We did a show on animals quite a while back, and there were some listeners reached out, and there was some confusion about, is it a spirit animal, a totem animal, a power animal? And in a lot of shamanic and indigenous cultures, spirits are often referred to as totem animals or power animals, and they're seen as interchangeable terms, but there are subtle differences, because often, from what I understand, from what I've read, from what I've been told over the years, a totem animal is typically one shared by a family, a clan, or a group. So in a lot of the indigenous cultures, the family you were born into will have a totem animal in common. The modern version of that is, look how many sports teams and schools have an animal mascot that everyone unites with.
oh, that's true. I didn't compare those two that way. That's interesting.
A lot of times people will have totem animals can be a representative, like something, you'll have a little statue or you'll have a little picture, you'll have a figurine of that animal and you'll put it on an altar, or you might collect frogs, or you might love, you know how some people are really drawn to a certain animal and they'll have little
Yes.
figurines and stuff of it. That can be a representational totem animal. And the example that I read, which I thought made sense, was we give kids a teddy bear for comfort. Isn't that kind of a totem when you think about it?
Well, that's true.
But power animals are more a specialized animal guide that shamans and shamanic practitioners work closely with when you're going into those altered states of awareness in a shamanic journey. But we all have a power animal that accompanies us through life. And for me, I look at it as another member of the team of helpers who want to support us and guide us and help us with our life experiences. So you really don't have to be a shaman or a practitioner or even have a relationship with a power animal in that way. They're going to still be there to help you.
Yeah, that's true. And they can often come to you in dreams, meditations, visions, or journeys. And so it doesn't mean that, your power animal might be a panther. Well, you're probably not going to see a panther in your everyday life, and it can still be a power animal for you that shows up in a lot of different unique ways.
Right. And there's a belief that we're all born with a power animal. If you have a certain affinity or a connection, and what I always say to people, and what I love, none are better or worse than another. Like, people want a big power. Oh, I have a jaguar, or I have this, or I have that. You might end up with something that is, you might get an octopus, or you might get a mouse, or you might get something that isn't deemed a real traditional strong power. But it's the one that aligns with your energy and the lessons you came in to work on in this lifetime, which I think is really important.
So our power animal is with us from the beginning to the end?
That's the way I understand it, yes.
Okay. I feel like that's true. And I also feel like some animals will show up at different stages of your life.
Very much so.
Like I remember when I was going through a really, really busy time and I knew I needed to take a break, but I just didn't know how. I kept seeing sloths everywhere.
Huh.
Like, those cute little videos
Yeah.
The way they stretch and the way they're so lazy and sleeping. Whenever I'd scroll through Instagram or TikTok, or people would send me little YouTube clips of these adorable little, the sloth babies. Oh my gosh. And it was like 3 weeks of this going on. And I finally was like, oh, wait a minute. I think that's my guides telling me I've got to slow down a little bit.
Right.
But that wouldn't be a power animal. That would be more of a sign, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the way I would take it. Yes. And you're right. It's going to be whatever your animal is that walk, and you can use it in meditation, in journey work, in your everyday life, because it's the attributes of the animal that are going to give you the strength and power or the insights that you need in your own life. It's really a incredibly interesting topic to think about, especially when you can go back to all the indigenous cultures that have different belief systems around this, and mythology with animals and the connection, and different religions. It's very, very interesting. So it's just a spiritual ally that are here to offer support and guidance. So if you're really drawn to animals or the natural world, this might be an easy thing for you to work with. But we've talked about this a lot. When an animal shows up just unexpectedly, or it's doing something that that animal doesn't usually do, that can be a sign. If they show up at 3 times in a short period of time. So with the sloth, it kept showing up randomly. There
Yeah.
was no pattern to it.
Yeah. I wasn't seeking it out.
Right. And you weren't thinking about sloths. You weren't thinking about being overwhelmed. It was almost like, okay, she hasn't quite got it yet. Send her another picture of a sloth. The little babies always look like they're smiling to me.
Oh, they do. It's so cute. And like you could say, well, Samantha, that's called an algorithm.
Right.
And they noticed you pausing over that video. But I would have, like, my kids sent me a couple. One of my friends sent me a card that had a sloth, it said, like, just hang in there. So I don't know. I feel like there was something more to it.
Well, I shared with you before we started recording that I had done an in-person group reading recently for some people I've known for quite a while. And I was halfway through the reading and bringing someone through, and this man was there, and he was very quiet. The woman's husband was there, and he just said, so does it mean anything that about 50 doves just landed in the yard? And I laughed because a couple days prior to that, I had heard from spirit. I was asking for a sign, and I heard dove, and I hadn't seen a dove, and I don't see a lot of doves where I live. And I said to the man, I said, do you usually get a lot of doves here? And he said, well, we'll usually get 1 or 2. I've never seen that many doves together before, especially here. So was that spirit getting my attention? I would like to think so.
Oh, good. Denise, I don't want to be your spirit guide if you have to ask that question. Everybody, let's pause for a moment of prayer for Denise's spirit guides. Yes, that was definitely your sign.
But I think...
I always... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I get confused because I've always had dreams of wolves. Well, one wolf. I have a dream where I'm walking with this wolf by my side. And I always assumed he was my guide, my animal guide. But I see hawks all the time in real life when I'm asking for certain signs, or if, I don't know, they just, I see them all the time, whether I'm in my state, whether I'm traveling to a different state, they're just all around me. So I always wonder, is the hawk my guide? Is the wolf my guide?
They both could be, but there would be a primary. If you've dreamt about it and it's walking with you and it feels that strong, I would say yes. Have you ever done a journey to meet your power animal?
No, I probably should.
Okay, because that's an easy thing to do. And if you do the journey and you see the animal, I believe it's 4 times unexpectedly and I think that's important, because what I've experienced, what other people have experienced, if you're in that meditative state to make that connection, Spirit's going to use the same way that you process intuitively. So if you're really clairaudient, you might hear a wolf howl, or you might see a flash of the tail, or you might feel like the way that they move through the woods. So it's going to use however your clairs are attuned to you to bring through the animal.
I need to try that. The reason why I haven't is because I've had all these dreams of this wolf with me, and he's got like white, gray, and black fur, is because I just assume my subconscious will show me the wolf because that's what I think.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because I've done this with people and they've expected to see, oh, I know my animal is this, and then they'll get something completely different. For me, I've had the same power animal for decades and decades that is the one that I use to go into journey work, that I can feel that energy even in everyday reality. But there are other animals that come in. And it's interesting you brought up the hawks, because when I lived in Washington State, I was making some really huge decisions in my life, very, very big, life-changing. And there were hawks would come and literally sit right outside my kitchen door, and where hawks shouldn't have sat. And I started watching them, and the more you do this, the more you get attuned to what kind of hawk is it? Is this their environment? And there was a hawk there that wasn't even from that part of the country.
Wow.
And I looked it up and I spent time and I figured it out. And honestly, it was a huge part in helping me make some of those decisions.
Yeah.
So again, if you have an affinity for animals, or you have difficulty trusting humans, but you trust animals more, this might be a good thing for you to explore.
So one thing that you always stress is that an animal should show up in an uncommon way about 3 times in a short period of time.
Right.
Should we give people ideas? Like, because that doesn't just mean in person.
Right, because it could be, the example I would use is, I don't have armadillos in my part of the country. They don't live here. It's too cold. But when I was camping down south, a little armadillo waddled into my campsite, unexpected. Boop, 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 here he comes. And they're very, if animals aren't common to your area, when you see them, it's very, very interesting and intriguing. But I looked it up and it was absolutely spot on with what was going on, with have a stronger shell, the soft underbelly, all the things that go with armadillo. But about 3 days after that, I opened something up and armadillo popped up, like on a meme or something like that. I was walking in a line and someone was talking about having armadillo under their porch. So if it could show up in conversation, it could show up physically, it could be symbolic, it could be you have a dream about it, but it doesn't have to mean that you actually see that animal in person.
All right. So are we going to talk about what some of these animals could mean?
I'd love that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I pulled together some, and there's so many. So I think today we're going to talk about a lot of birds, a lot of things that come through flight, birds and insects and things. But these are from a variety of resources: Animal Speak and Animal Wise by Ted Andrews, The Pocket Spirit Guide to Animals by Dr. Stephen Farmer. You can also Google metaphysical or spiritual meaning of a given animal, and it's going to bring up a whole lot of resources for you.
Okay, so the first one we have is the cardinal. And these birds are named for the cardinals of the Roman Catholic Church with their bright red robes. They're bright and they really stand out. So is that a way for those in spirit to grab our attention? If they come in as a pair with the lighter brown of the female in contrast to the bright red of the male, is this a message from spirit about relationships? Some people believe the pairs come together are parents or grandparents who are letting you know they're still together in the afterlife. Cardinals can also be a sign that someone needs your compassion and loving attention, or it can be an indicator that you're in a very creative time and to pay attention to your intuitive guidance as to how best to use this creativity. I had also read that the cardinals' cry, or their song, I should say, sounds like miss you, miss
Yes.
you. And
Yes.
so that's why it came to be known as a sign from a loved one in heaven, which I thought was very sweet.
But haven't you found that many, many, many people feel that a cardinal is their person in spirit?
Yes. Oh, yes. Well, my former mother-in-law told me, she said, I'll try to show you a cardinal.
Does she?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she does. All the time. Yeah. We actually have a cardinal mommy and daddy that have nested shortly after she passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's not as common to see pairs.
No.
Maybe certain times of the year, but it's not as common.
No. And this one, the female one, she bosses him around. It's so funny. She hops around in the fence and like he hops away from her.
But they are really bright. They catch your eye. If they're at your bird feeder, or they're showing up in an unusual way, or it seems like they're looking right in the window at you, that could also be a sign that they're a visit from someone in spirit.
Yeah, it'll be little things. I like someone gave me a red cardinal ornament. Someone once had beautiful lilies delivered to my house, the peace lily plant, and it had a red cardinal on a stick, like in the plant. I've gotten cards with the red cardinal on it. So I think when our loved ones are trying to say, "Hey, I love you. I'm still with you," they'll do it in a lot of different ways.
I agree. Blue jays are another, the really bright blue. They catch your eye, and they can come as a messenger about using your own power properly. They can show up to bring awareness of power possibly being used against you. And the blue jay is seen as having the ability to link heavens and earths to access the greater power of each. It can be a message about accessing your main gifts and talents and to develop a plan on how you can best use them to clear action. And, they're seen as blueberries and robbers and stuff. But what I loved was in all these different cultures and belief systems around them. And the word jay comes from the Latin word Gaia, which has associations to Mother Earth. And in Greek mythology, the union of Mother Earth, Gaia, and Father Heaven, Uranus, resulted in the first creatures who had the appearance of life. So it's that intrinsic power associated with the jay. But, the blue sky separating the heavens, which are white, and the earth, which is black. So it really is, there's a lot of symbolism often in the colors or the mannerisms or the habits of the animals that come to us.
Oh, that's so cool. And then owls. Ooh, sometimes you'll tell people you see an owl and they're like, ooh, that's an omen of death. But that is not always true. The mystery of magic, omens, silent wisdom, and vision in the night is what they symbolize. There are references in all cultures to the mysticism of owls. In the medicine card deck by Jamie Sams and David Carson, owl medicine is symbolically associated with clairvoyance, astral projection, and magic, both black and white. If you have a strong connection to owls or they're making themselves known to you, pay attention to what kind of owl it is, as there are specific nuances, and this will help you determine what they are here to help you with. All owls indicate it being a significant time for prophecy.
When we first moved to northern Florida, and there were, when you're moving, you have little kids, there's different stuff. And there was an owl that would sit outside the boys' bedroom. And it always struck me that it was there. And they would sit and they'd look at the owl, and it was there. And it stayed for quite a while. Does an animal come back into your life? Does it show up again? Is it there only for a short period of time?
Have the owls come back to your boys?
To one of them, yes.
Oh, that's really cool. Denise and I just want to pop in and tell you guys about some exciting events and classes we have coming up in the new year. On January 8th, I'm teaching my manifesting class to help kickstart your New Year goals. With this live class that's taught in person over Zoom, you get my Manifesting Goals ebook. You get a meditation to help you align your subconscious with your goals. You get a chance to ask me questions about manifesting blocks and learn how to really set your 2025 in the best possible energy. Also, the 4 Wednesdays in February, I'm teaching my Be Your Own Psychic class, where you really learn how to embrace, awaken, and strengthen your intuition. You'll get some partner work, you'll get some individual exercises, and some fantastic feedback. And also in February, on the 2 Saturdays in February, we're going to be doing our class on mediumship with Denise and myself. That's Saturday, February 8th and February 22nd. I'm so excited to teach this again with you.
Oh, it's fun. We always have a good time when we do this one, and it's a beautiful stepping off point. If you think, am I a medium? Am I not a medium? It's a really nice place to explore that.
Yeah, I think so too. You learn really how to embrace your mediumship in a very safe and supportive environment. And because we're doing it on Saturdays, there's a little bit of extra time where we're hoping to do some in-class partner exercises. But like our other classes, you'll have some out-of-class partner exercises as well. Oh, and I also, in January on the 25th, if anyone's in the Northeast, I'm going to be in Virginia I'm going to be presenting Saturday night at Edgar Casey ARE on manifesting.
Oh, perfect. And I just want to put a shameless plug in for you. If anyone is looking for a wonderful gift for someone around the holidays, Samantha's book, The Awake Dreamer, and Heavenly Alliance are incredible and would make a beautiful gift. So they can
Oh,
find those through your website.
yes, they're signed and they come with fun stickers and a bookmark with a poem I wrote on the back of it. And I love, they all come gift wrap. I get so excited every time someone orders a signed book. So thank you, Denise. You're so
Oh, you're
sweet.
welcome. You're welcome. And the past 3 years, I've offered a really intensive mentoring program for a small group of people. I've been studying and doing this work for a while now, and I've taken so many classes and trainings that it's my way to share what I've learned. But even more importantly, it's about helping each person find how they best connect with spirit. In the past, it's been a 6-month program, and each month, every person gets a one-on-one coaching session with me for their own personal growth and development. There are 2 monthly group meetings, and the first part of the meeting is direct instruction, where I share practices or techniques to help you develop your own connection more fully. But the second half is more of a shared, it's practice, it's building community. We also, if there's an interest, we've explored business components. There's a monthly class that we have as a group. Everything's recorded and uploaded. So if you're not able to be there in person, the big part that I think my favorite, though, is that this is a real way to build community. And we have shared practice sessions with previous mentor groups worked into the schedule as well. So if you're interested in that and would like more information, please send me an email with Mentor Program 2025 in the subject line, and I'll send you back some information. It is a small group. It's limited to 20 people, so you really get to know the folk. It's fun.
It's fun and it's important, and the feedback on that has been stupendous. I mean, I hear from your former students all the time. If they send us a question, they'll mention that they were in that group, and I just think it's just a beautiful service you're offering.
Thank you. And I love that truly, it touches my heart that I see the groups and the friendships and the connections that have happened outside of that little program. People have been
Yeah,
writing books together and teaching classes and unbelievable stuff.
it's so exciting, and we get the nicest people.
We do.
I always, in the Be Your Own Psychic and the mediumship classes, you and I both encourage them to keep meeting online together on the Zoom. We're like, well, you already have the Zoom link, like just keep meeting together and supporting one another. And I was teaching a class a couple of months ago, and one of the students in there popped in the chat that she was in my Be Your Own Psychic, and she's still monitoring the meetup groups that they do, and she invited anyone in that class to come join
Yeah.
them. How
See,
sweet is that?
it's incredible. So that's after the first of the year. Right now, I have some self-paced courses on my website that are online. There's a lot of good information. Keep in mind, they were done by an old lady in Maine, so they're not studio quality, but sometimes that makes it a little more entertaining. From Black Friday in November until through the month of December, if you use the coupon code JOY, they're 25% off. There is an option to gift these to other people as well. So there's 4 or 5 different classes that, again, if you're looking for a base of knowledge, there's a lot of handouts, there's some practice exercises. And in 2025, might be going to happen is a membership program. I'm not quite sure what this looks like yet, but it's a group experience to build community, to network, to practice skills, and to come together as like-minded people. So as that unfolds, I'll keep you posted.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's fun. So we have a lot of
Perfect.
fun things coming up.
Let's get back to the show.
Perfect. All right. So hawks, a lot of people, and you brought up hawks. I've seen hawks. Our dear friend Rod, who passed recently, had a affinity with hawks. Visionary power and guardianship, and they're messengers, protectors, visionaries. Hawks and owls have the keenest eyes of all the raptors. So as similar to the owls, when you're researching a specific type of hawk, it can give you more insights into the message. Is it a red tail? Is it a sharp shin? There's a lot of different varieties. But hawks can be nudging you to stay alert and focused on what's going on in your life. Again, that keen eyesight, but to spend time studying and observing a situation so you'll be ready to take quick action when opportunity presents. They can also indicate the need to pay attention to your surroundings, to be aware of personal or psychic attacks, and they can be about messages coming into your life.
Wow. So
But
they can be a message about like psychic attacks coming to you or people
yeah,
thinking bad thoughts about you?
I think so.
Do they bring protection? Because I always think of the hawk as a protector.
Yes. And I get a sense of awe with the birds of prey,
Yeah, I do too.
not just because of their size, but there's an elegance to the way that they glide, to the way that they
Hmm.
fly. Really, really fun to watch them like ride the currents and stuff in the wind.
Oh, I agree. It's breathtaking. Okay, and then hummingbird. Oh, I always get so excited when I see a hummingbird. They represent tireless joy and the nectar of life. These amazing beauties are often seen as a symbol for accomplishing that which seems impossible. So when you see a hummingbird, it's about finding joy in your life circumstances. It's about openly expressing the love you feel and have for important people in your life. And I think because the hummingbird does do the impossible, it's about redefining any limitations you might be putting around yourself and seeing them as illusions.
Exactly. And they can go backwards and forwards and up and down, and they're like little tiny helicopters. They're
They
really,
are.
really cool. But the fact that they are so delicate and so strong, I think that's another aspect of it. But it seems that hummingbirds come through for a lot of people as a sign from someone in spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Because they've done the impossible. They've transcended to the other side.
And the fact that they migrate thousands and thousands of miles on those little tiny wings.
It's amazing.
And they're pretty. The iridescent color in their wings and the feathers.
They are beautiful.
The chickadees can be about cheerful and truthful expression, and the black cap of the chickadee reflects the uncovering the mysteries of the mind. They can be thinking, can be awakening understanding and higher truth. Chickadee can help you express the truth in a way that heals, bring balance, and opens perceptions. And that's true of any kind of a masked animal or bird. It usually has to do with thinking, cognition, perception. Waxwings have that beautiful little eye thing going on, and different animals that have that black cap. Or think about the mask on raccoons. There's bringing emphasis to seeing things more clearly, perceiving things, of being open.
And they just sound so happy.
They do. And they always remind me of sometimes, and this is rare, but you'll be walking through the woods and they'll kind of flutter around you like a little Snow White thing.
Yeah, that's so true. And in groups too.
Yes. It's hard not to like do a little skip and say, "Oh, hello."
Okay, we've got to talk about butterflies because I think that is such a common animal sign that we all have seen. They represent transformation and the dance of joy. When butterflies show up, pay attention to important issues confronting you in your life. They are about change, transformation, and while they may seem to dance as they alight on flowers, they are a beautiful reminder to not take things so seriously, to get up and move and dance and bring joy through movement. Every time I see a butterfly, I think about the total trust that they have just endured in the surrendering process that birthed them into being. I mean, imagine being a caterpillar and you're just like crawling through life and you got your little caterpillar friends, and all of a sudden you're so hungry, you're ravenous, and you don't know why. And maybe summer's coming up and you're like, I got to stop eating this much, but you can't stop. And then suddenly you're spinning this dark cocoon around yourself that's so tight you can't even move for a very, very long time. I mean, we had talked about how everything has consciousness on another show. What is the caterpillar butterfly thinking in that moment of darkness and entrapment? And then they have to go through the painful process of breaking out of that cocoon. And it's a painful process. It's pushing fluid through every area of their body and their new wings. And then they emerge as this completely new thing.
Right. And they always say don't ever try to help a butterfly get out of the cocoon because then their wings won't be strong enough.
Yes, and
They
they never
have to fight
stop.
through.
Yeah, they've got to go through that difficult time.
There's a person who listens to our show who is very practical, highly, highly intelligent. And every once in a while, he'll send me videos of or messages about the butterflies that show up in his life. And it's kind of funny because it's almost like they follow him around and they show up in the damnedest places. In a traffic jam, there'll be a little swirl of butterflies and I think I think that spirit has a good sense of humor sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
Very often.
I get excited when I see a butterfly at the beach. I don't know why, but it makes me very happy. It's not, I don't see butterflies often at the beach, but once in a while, especially back up by the dunes.
Well, remember years ago, the blue butterfly story, and I was hell bent on there wasn't going to see a blue butterfly in Maine. And then it was showing up on books. It was showing up on a design in a labradorite slab. It was showing up everywhere. And I still was like, nope, little kid with my hands over my ears, la, 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 I can't hear you. And then someone sent me a meme that morning that I had to make the decision, and it had 12 blue butterflies ringed around it. And I thought, oh, son of a bitch, that's the one I have to go with, isn't it? Because they'll just keep amping it up until you can't ignore it.
Once again, listeners, can we have a moment of silence for Denise and Spirit Guide?
No, but I think it's good to be skeptical and not
No,
just
I
drink
do
the
too.
Kool-Aid.
I do too. I'm just kidding. I
Yeah.
do stuff like that all the time. But then it's like, that's what the butterfly reminds me of, though. It's like that you got to do it on your own, but you got to surrender. Like that, that caterpillar had to weave her own damn cocoon and break her own badass self out of it. But yet she was compelled to do it because it was nature's way. And it just reminds me so much of how our life works. Like we have to surrender to the process, but we have to do the work.
Right.
It's just a powerful message. And dragonflies are kind of similar, right?
They are. And then there's dragonflies and damselflies, which are a little bit different, but the same. They're very similar. And I mean, they're old. They're like 180 million years old. And, that power of light, they're so ancient. And of course, you start thinking about, are they a smaller version of dragons that actually were? Because, there's a lot of folklore, mythology. People believe in dragons even to this day. Is there a connection and they got shrunk down, or was the world different and they were actually full size? There's so much to think about. But they can show up to let you know that you might need some fresh air in your life in regards to something emotional. You might need a new perspective or to make a change. And sometimes they can be letting you know that you're being too rational, and to remember to see through any illusions and let your own light shine through. If you've ever looked closely at the delicateness of a wing on a dragonfly, but also the colors they're awe-inspiring. The color, and I think that's another message of dragonfly, is the color of life.
Oh, for sure. I always like to think of dragonflies bringing me a message of balance as well, because they can live on water and in air and on land.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about learning to get along and go along with a lot of different situations and challenges in your life. They're able to transcend a lot of different places and times. So for me, sometimes when I see a dragonfly, it's almost like a message that I'm supposed to really work on balance in my life.
So there was, how you'll have a flash of a memory. And we used to go to this lake when I was a kid, and there were reeds and stuff, and there were dragonflies. And there was this mean kid. And I remember he said, "Those are darning needles, and they're going to sew your mouth shut." And I became very afraid of them, but I never had heard them referred to as darning needles before.
Where is that kid today? Folsom? What a terrible thing to say.
Well, there's a lot of, people
I
aren't always
see them as magical. They remind me of like fireflies.
And I think it's interesting that so many spiritually based businesses or practices, or there's a lot of people love the icon, the energy of a dragonfly.
Yes. Yeah, I know. They're really, really cool. I drew this, you know how I used to draw on my kids' snack bags?
Yes.
Well, after their shortly after their mother-in-law passed, or my mother-in-law, their grandmother passed away. I think it was like her first or second anniversary. I drew this picture on Olivia's snack bag of like a cemetery with a dragonfly over it, and all these little caterpillar. No, I'm sorry, it was a butterfly. So all these little caterpillars were hovered around this one grave, and they were all crying. And then the grandmother butterfly was in the sky saying, "I'm still here. Can't you see me? I'm always with you."
Oh.
My kids thought that was like the most Wednesday Adam. It's like, Mom, try again. But that's how I see the way we exist with the other side. Like, we're still caterpillars,
Yeah.
and our loved ones who have physically lost their body, they're butterflies. So they can't really, we can't see them in the same way, but they're there. So I just think there's something magical every time I see a butterfly or a dragonfly. I love it.
But it really does feel like a reminder that we're part of it, that
Yeah.
they want to help us. We should look out for them. Goes back to the story from another episode about the little boy who discovered a way to see the pesticides on the fruit. What we're doing to the environment is affecting all these animals. So we have to be aware of that as well. Maybe they're showing up for us more to let us know that they need our help as much as we need their help.
Oh, that's so true. Speaking of, let's talk about bees.
Oh, the bees.
The bees. They represent fertility and the honey of life, and they are longtime symbols of accomplishing the impossible. Because is it true? I've read that this is true and that it's a myth that scientifically their wings should not be able to allow them to fly, but because they don't know that, they fly anyway.
Right. Especially bumblebees, the little chubby guys. Yeah.
Wow. So it's a message to examine your own productivity, to remember to extract the honey of life and embrace the opportunity to truly enjoy our lives as we pursue our dreams and purpose.
They have such an intricate community and life, the bees. And people are afraid of them and they're this and that. But when you watch them, they're really, you're right. Aerodynamically, they shouldn't be able to fly with such grace from flower to flower. But if you've ever seen a fat little bee with pollen all over their legs, it's like seeing a little kid. They're just so damn cute.
They are. I always feel like it's a message to remind yourself to work for the greater good.
Yeah.
Because the bee cares nothing for itself. It's all about the hive and the queen and working for the greater good of that, which I think is interesting.
Yes. Because I think that's what many of us are trying to do right now is how can we come together in community and help each other out and look out for each other. It goes back to the kindness stories that we've talked about. It's where the more we can pay attention, I truly believe the more spirit wants to help us. And that's in your book on how to connect with all the different spirit guides and angels and ancestors that want to help us.
Yeah, and to help us to recognize really and truly who we are and what we're here to do. And I think these animals showing up in our lives can serve as reminders of that. Or just little, like if life is a marathon, they're like little the volunteers on the side of the road holding up a bottle of water or a sign that says keep going. Like every time I see a cricket, I get happy because I know that means good luck is coming to me. I think it's just nice to be aware, like you were saying before, of what nature is trying to tell us. And just as important, like you said, to think about how we can give back to nature. Now,
Right.
if listeners wanted to do a guided meditation to meet their power animal, I'm sure they can find one online, but are there some tips you can offer? Like, do they need to listen to a certain hertz tonal music or certain images they should focus on?
From my own experience, learning to journey, learning to go to non-ordinary reality to find that animal, you're right, there are a ton of different ways to do this online, on YouTube, on different things. So finding something that resonates with you. It can also be taking a course with someone that you respect or that you trust. There are books available, so we can put some resources in the show notes as well.
Okay, fantastic. But I think it's worth it to carve out some time to really connect with your power animal, because they can offer so much tremendous support and insight and really help us trigger and trust our intuition. Because what it feels like from just our discussion today, when you see these birds or these insects or these animals in your life, you have to pause and offer gratitude and reflect on what it means for yourself and your path. But you also have to use your intuition to interpret the message.
Right, right. And I mean, this, we just touched on the very edge. So, as I mentioned, there's wonderful books that we'll put in the show notes as well. But if you have an animal that really touches your heart or keeps showing up into your life, or that you have always loved, and some people say, well, can my cat or my dog be my power animal? I see them more as someone to walk with us on the path in this lifetime. But domesticated animals usually aren't power animals, from what I understand.
Yeah. They're just friends and
Right.
family members.
I mean, it's not a big deal to do a guided meditation to meet your power animal, but what it does come down to is being open and trusting what comes through for you,
Yes.
as with all of this work, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, and just taking the time to foster that relationship.
Right, because then you can feel them in your everyday life as well.
Exactly.
Just as you will invite in an ancestor, or you'll invite in an angel, or you'll invite in a guide, you're adding someone else to your team, which the essence, and I don't know if we mentioned this or not, but it's not the individual animal that's coming to you, it's the collective energy of that animal. So if you're seeing a hawk, it's not the individual hawk, it's all the collective energy of that species that's coming to you to bring through the power, the insight, the message.
Very good point. No, we did not mention that. And I think that's really important to understand.
Yeah. But
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you'll take some time this week to just walk through nature, look out your yard, take a stroll through your park, and really notice what the world of nature is trying to convey to you. Have a great week, everyone. Remember, as always, to show up, do great work, and share your light.
take care.